The roar of the engines faded, leaving only the distant echoes of cheers and triumph. Captain Jenna Marlowe leaned against the warm metal wall of the hangar, whiting swept from her brow, as she watched the last of the Vornok fighters retreat into the black void of space. The battle had been fierce, but Earth's fleet had emerged victorious, thanks to the brilliant strategy they had devised together. "Captain," a voice called out, breaking her reverie. It was Lieutenant Sam Torres, his uniform disheveled but his eyes shining with exhilaration. "We did it! We actually did it!" Jenna smiled, the adrenaline of the fight still coursing through her veins. "Yeah, we did, but let's not celebrate just yet. We need to assess the damage and ensure that the Vornok won't come back." "Right, but first, can we at least get some scritches?" Sam's expression was earnest, and Jenna couldn't help but chuckle. "Scritches," she echoed, raising an eyebrow. "You really want scritches after all that?" "Absolutely. The crew needs it, and so do you," he insisted. "Remember how we all talked about the power of scritches during the briefing?" The power of scritches. Jenna remembered. It had started as a joke, a way to lighten the mood during the grueling planning sessions. The idea of giving their stressed-out crew a moment of levity had evolved into a full-blown ritual, complete with designated scritchers to help relieve tension. "Fine," Jenna relented, shaking her head with a smile. "Let's gather the crew." Within moments, the hangar buzzed with excitement. Crew members were chatting animatedly, sharing stories of close calls and narrow escapes, while others set up makeshift stations with cushions and soft blankets. The scritching began in earnest, laughter and cheers mixing with the background noise of machinery. Jenna found herself in a corner, where a few of the younger crew members had taken to scratching each other's backs, trying to reach that perfect spot that elicited delighted giggles and sighs. She joined in, her hands working gently as she found that sweet spot on one of the crew's shoulders. "Say, doesn't that feel good?" she asked, grinning as the young woman leaned into the scritches. "It's amazing," the woman laughed. "I don't know how we survived without this." As Jenna moved from person to person, she felt the weight of the recent battle begin to lift. The stress, the fear, the adrenaline of it faded away under the warm, comforting connection of camaraderie. Rebuilding bonds. After a while, Jenna noticed a small group gathered around a console, focused intently on a screen. Curious, she made her way over, scritches forgotten for the moment. "What's going on?" "It's the Vornok's retreat," Sam said, pointing to the screen. "We're analyzing their fleet movements. It looks like they're regrouping, but we can track their routes." "Good. We need to be prepared for their next move," Jenna replied, her mind already racing ahead to their next mission. But Sam hesitated, glancing at the crew. "Shouldn't we be focusing on morale too?" Jenna looked around at the weary but determined faces of her crew. They had fought valiantly, and it showed in their eyes. "You're right. Let's make this a team effort. We'll gather intel while keeping the spirit of scritches alive." A new tradition. With renewed energy, the crew dove into their tasks. They split into teams, some focused on data analysis, while others returned to the scritching stations, making it a game to see who could keep each other relaxed while still working. Over the next few hours, the hangar transformed into a hive of activity. Data streams merged with laughter, and strategy meetings included impromptu scritch breaks. Jenna couldn't help but feel proud of her crew. They had forged a bond that went beyond their military duties, creating a family that supported each other through thick and thin. As the sun set outside the hangar, casting long shadows across the floor, Jenna knew they would face whatever came next together. They had proven themselves in battle, but it was this blend of strength, strategy, and the power of scritches that would carry them through the uncertain days ahead. Conclusion. In the heart of the galaxy, amidst the chaos of war, Captain Jenna Marlowe had discovered something profound. Sometimes, the simplest acts of kindness and connection could be the most powerful weapon of all. As the crew shared stories and laughter, the bonds they formed would become the cornerstone of their resistance against the Vornok threat. And so, they scritched on, ready for whatever came next, knowing that together, they could conquer any challenge, be it in the vastness of space or the everyday trials of life. To be continued. The next morning, the atmosphere in the hangar was charged with a blend of anticipation and determination. Jenna Marlowe sipped her coffee, its warmth a comforting start to the day, While the crew buzzed with excitement over their newfound ritual, the Scritches have worked wonders for morale, transforming anxiety into unity. "Morning, Captain," Sam Torres greeted her, his energy infectious. "You ready for another day of data crunching and scritching?" "Always," Jenna replied, a grin spreading across her face. "What on the agenda?" Sam gestured toward the large display screen. "We've got new intel on the Vornok's movements. It looks like they're consolidating their forces at a nearby asteroid field. We need to decide how to approach it." Jenna took a sip of her coffee, glancing at the data streaming in. "Let's call a briefing. Gather everyone. I want all hands on deck for this one." The briefing room. The crew filed into the briefing room, a mix of seasoned veterans and eager new recruits. Jenna stood at the front, her heart swelling with pride as she looked at them. "All right, Tim, we've got reports of Vornok forces regrouping. They're not just licking their wounds, they're planning something. We need to be ready." "Do we know how many ships they have?" asked Lieutenant Mira Chang, her brow furrowed as she scanned the reports. "Preliminary estimates suggest they're pulling together a substantial fleet," Sam replied, projecting the data on the screen. "If we hit them now, we might catch them off guard. Or we could be walking into a trap," Jenna countered, her voice steady. "We need to analyze their movements and decide whether to engage or hold back. I don't want anyone flying into a meat grinder." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crew. Jenna could feel the tension in the room, but it was accompanied by the undercurrent of determination that had grown over the past few days. "We'll split into teams," she continued. "One will focus on analyzing Vornok tactics, while the other preps our fleet for possible engagement. And remember," she added with a twinkle in her eye, "Scritches are still a priority. A relaxed crew is a focused crew." Laughter broke out, the camaraderie easing some of the tension. They were all in this together, and she wanted to keep that spirit alive. Data and decisions. Hours passed as the teams dove into their work. The hangar buzzed with the sound of clattering keyboards, urgent discussions, and the occasional burst of laughter. Jenna flitted between groups, offering encouragement and guidance. Each time she passed a Scritche station, she found crew members reminding one another to take breaks. "Captain, come here," Mira called, motioning Jenna over to her console. "You need to see this." Jenna approached, peering over her shoulder. "What have you got?" Mira pointed at a series of graphs displaying the Vornok's fleet movements. "Look at this pattern. They're using a predictable route through the asteroid field. If we time our approach, we could ambush them at this choke point." Jenna nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "We can use our smaller ships to flank them. They'll never see it coming. Let's put together a plan for a strike mission." The calm before the storm. As the day wore on, the crew prepared for their potential ambush. They ran simulations, strategized, and even included Scritches as part of their downtime, allowing everyone to recharge both mentally and physically. As evening settled in, Jenna gathered everyone for a final briefing before they launched the next morning. "I am proud of all of you. Your hard work has not gone unnoticed, and I believe in our ability to turn this fight in our favor. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves, but for everyone back home." The crew erupted in cheers, their spirits high as they echoed her sentiment. Jenna felt a swell of pride in her chest. They were a family, and she knew they would do whatever it took to protect each other and their home. The final preparations. The night before the mission, Jenna couldn't sleep. She walked through the hangar, the hum of machinery a comforting backdrop. As she passed the Scritche station, she stopped, watching a few crew members sharing stories and laughter. "Captain," one of them spotted her and waved her over. "You should join us." "Why not?" Jenna smiled and settled into a chair, allowing the crew to take turns scratching her back. "This is what it's all about, isn't it?" "Absolutely," Sam said, grinning. "Scritches and strategy, best combination ever." As they shared stories and laughter, Jenna felt the weight of their mission lift slightly. No matter the danger ahead, they were ready. They had each other, and together, they would face whatever came next. The dawn of battle. The next morning, the crew prepared for the ambush. Ships were loaded, and the tension was palpable. Jenna stood on the bridge, her heart racing as she looked at her crew. "All right, Tim, this is it. Let's move out and show the Vornok what humanity is made of." With that, the fleet launched into the void of space, a united front ready to face the enemy. As they flew toward the asteroid field, Jenna's mind was clear. They would fight, and they would win together. To be continued. The fleet hurtled through the void, the darkness outside punctuated by the distant twinkle of stars. Captain Jenna Marlowe stood at the helm, her heart pounding with anticipation. The asteroid field loomed ahead, a chaotic jumble of rock and debris that could easily become a graveyard for the unwary. "Status report," she commanded, her voice cutting through the tension on the bridge. "Long-range scanners are picking up multiple Vornok vessels ahead," Captain Mira Chang replied, her eyes fixed on the screen. "Looks like they've set up a staging area. We should engage before they complete their regrouping." "Maintain our current speed and angle," Jenna ordered. "We'll approach from the outer edge of the field, flank them, and let's catch them off guard." The crew nodded, adrenaline surging through the small space. Jenna took a deep breath, focusing on the task at hand. They had trained for this, rehearsed every scenario. Now it was time to put their plan into action. The ambush. As they neared the asteroid field, Jenna's instincts kicked in. All ships, prepare for engagement. Maintain formation and keep communications open. We'll strike fast and hard. The fleet entered the field, navigating through the labyrinth of asteroids. The sound of clashing metal filled the air as ships maneuvered, avoiding obstacles with practiced precision. Jenna felt the familiar rush of adrenaline as they closed in on the Vornok forces. "Captain, we're in position," Sam Torres shouted, his fingers dancing over his console. "They're completely unaware of our presence." "On my mark," Jenna replied, her heart racing. She took a moment to assess the scene before her. The Vornok ships clustered together, vulnerable in their regrouping. 3, 2, 1, engage. In an instant, chaos erupted. Laser fire lit up the darkness, ships darting in and out of the asteroids. As the crew executed their plan flawlessly, Jenna commanded her ship with precision, weaving through the debris while firing at the enemy vessels. "Target their engines," she shouted, her voice ringing through the comms. "We need to cripple their ability to retreat." A desperate counterattack. The initial strike caught the Vornok off guard, their ships exploding in bursts of color against the backdrop of space, but soon they rallied, returning fire with a vengeance. Jenna's ship shook as enemy lasers struck the hull, alarms blaring in the background. "Shields holding at 70%, Mira called out, her eyes scanning the controls. "We can't sustain this for long." "Divert power from non-essential systems," Jenna ordered. "Keep the shields up and focus on evasive maneuvers." As the battle raged on, Jenna's mind raced. They were outnumbered, but their strategy and unity were their greatest strengths. She glanced at the crew, the determination mirrored in their eyes. This was more than just a fight, it was a stand against a formidable foe. "Captain, we've got incoming from behind," Sam shouted, pointing to the scanners. "Looks like they're trying to flank us." "Reinforce our rear defenses," Jenna commanded, adjusting her grip on the controls. "We need to hold the line until we can regroup." Scritches in the heat of battle. In the midst of the chaos, Jenna caught sight of a small console where her crew had set up a makeshift Scritche station, a reminder of their unity even in battle. She couldn't help but smile amid the tension. "Don't forget your Scritches, crew," she called over the comms, her voice filled with encouragement. "Keep your spirits up." A wave of laughter and shouts erupted across the bridge, the crew momentarily buoyed by the light-hearted reminder. It was a testament to their bond and forged through laughter and shared struggles, even as lasers flew past their ship. "Focus, team," Jenna laughed, shaking her head. "Let's finish this." Turning the tide. With renewed determination, the crew rallied, coordinating their fire and moving as one cohesive unit. The tide began to turn as they disabled several Vornok ships, their coordinated assault proving effective. "Target locked on a command ship," Mira announced, her voice steady. "Firing on your mark, Captain." "Do it," Jenna shouted, her heart racing as the ship fired. The beam struck true, crippling the Vornok command vessel. Jenna felt a surge of triumph as the enemy ship began to drift, its crew scrambling in disarray. "Captain, we've got multiple Vornok ships retreating," Sam called out, his excitement palpable. "They're breaking formation." "Press the advantage," Jenna commanded. "Don't let them regroup. Let's show them what Earth is made of." The fleet surged forward, pursuing the retreating Vornok ships. The asteroids became a chaotic backdrop to their pursuit, but the crew worked seamlessly, navigating the debris as they closed in on their prey. The final stand. As the last Vornok ship fell, Jenna felt a wave of relief wash over her. Cheers erupted across the fleet. As the last remnants of the enemy scattered into the depths of space, they had done it. They had turned the tide against the Vornok, proving their strength and resilience. "Great job, everyone," Jenna said, her voice ringing with pride. "We did this together." As the cheers continued, Jenna glanced at the Scritche station once more. The power of their bond, their laughter, and their unity had seen them through the toughest battle yet. "Captain," Mira interrupted her thoughts, her eyes wide. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth. Homeward bound." The screen flickered to life, revealing the familiar face of Admiral Thomas. "Captain Marlowe, congratulations on your victory. You've made us all proud." "Thank you, Admiral. This was a team effort," Jenna replied, her heart swelling with pride for her crew. "We couldn't have done it without each other." The Admiral nodded, his expression serious. "We need to regroup and prepare for the next phase of the campaign. The Vornok will retaliate, and we must be ready." Jenna's heart sank slightly, but she steeled herself. "Understood, Admiral, will be ready." As the transmission ended, she turned to her crew, determination shining in her eyes. "All right, team, we've got a lot of work ahead of us. Let's regroup, assess our losses, and prepare for whatever comes next. And remember, Scritches are still a part of our strategy."